Hello, Psych 101 students. Welcome to Module 6. We will be looking at Chapter 12 in this module, Social Psychology, and also Chapter 13, Self and Personality. So let's begin with Social Psychology in Chapter 12. So let's start, I guess, with a definition of what social psychology is. It's the study of how people influence others' behavior, beliefs, and attitudes. The study of how people influence others' behavior, beliefs, and attitudes. In this chapter, the big questions we will be looking at are: how do you think about other people? That will be in learning objectives 1 and 2. How do your attitudes affect you? In learning objective 3. And then in learning objectives 4 and 5, we will look at how do other people influence you? So let's begin with the big question. How do you think about other people? And we will cover learning objective 1 in this video. Snap judgments and attributions. So when we first see someone or meet somebody, we tend to make snap judgments about these other people. And it only takes really a few seconds, and whenever you meet somebody or the first time you see somebody, you form an opinion very quickly. We do this using what they call thin slices of behavior. Researchers have found that people can make accurate judgments based on only a few seconds of observation. We observe nonverbal behaviors such as body language and facial expressions in order to form general impressions about people. So if you just take a quick look at this picture, you can, very quickly form an impression about these two gentlemen sitting on this park bench. And just, even though there's no movement or sound, you can see that it looks like they're disagreeing about something just by their body language and their facial expressions. So it doesn't, it's kind of programmed into us to be able to make these snap judgments about people once again, with just a few seconds of information. In one study, they had subjects watch 30-second soundless clips of college teachers while they were lecturing. And these subjects were able to accurately rate the teaching abilities of these college instructors just based on 30 seconds without sound watching them lecture. And what they compared it to is their ratings correlated with the ratings of students that had these professors all term long. And so just based on 30 seconds of watching a professor lecture, they had a good idea of the teaching ability of these professors. One of the first things we look at are facial expressions. The facial expressions communicate emotional state, interest, and trustworthiness. Eye contact is also very important in social situations. We judge someone as being more truthful and friendly if they make eye contact with us. Okay, attributions. We make attributions about people, about other people, and also about ourselves. Attributions are explanations for events or actions including other people's behaviors. So making an attribution is assigning a cause to a behavior, like why did that person do that, or why did I do that behavior? You've heard you know, we all know the word attribute. Like, what did you attribute that behavior to? I mean, this is what we mean by an attribution. So there are two main types of attributions: dispositional attributions and situational attributions. Dispositional attributions are people's explanations for why events or actions occur that refer to people's internal characteristics, such as abilities, traits, moods, or efforts. So a dispositional attribution is you're saying that the cause of the behavior is internal. So it's something personal about the person that caused them to behave in a certain way. A situational attribution or situational attributions are people's explanations for why events or actions occur that refer to external events such as the weather, luck, accidents, or other people's actions. So a situational attribution refers to an external cause of behavior. So if you think about something like performance on a test, for instance, if let's say somebody does poorly on a test, a dispositional attribution might be that, oh, that student just isn't, I don't, it isn't very intelligent, for instance. It's something about the person. It's something internal to them. A situational attribution might be that, oh, that student didn't do well because the test was way too difficult, or that person's instructor isn't very good, and so they didn't do well on the test, or they were sick that day, and that's why they didn't do well. Anyways, it's something else, something kind of that just refers to that specific situation, and it's not coming from within the person. Humans like order and predictability. We like to think that things happen for a reason. And this connects to the just world hypothesis, making attributions in a way that lead a person to think that victims must have done something to justify what happened to them. We don't like to think that, that person uh, was murdered just randomly, or that person just happened to be the person that was attacked and assaulted. So we like to think that a victim provoked their own, murder or their own rape or assault. That they did something that helped to bring it on. And the reason we like to think this is then we don't feel like, well, that it could have happened to us. So maybe there's a sexual assault in the neighborhood, and people, let's say women get talking, and neighbors get talking, and it's like, oh, they might come up with ideas like, oh, she always kind of dresses provocatively, or oh, she, sometimes she's walking home from bars late at night, and or whatever, coming up with some reason that this sexual assault victim, helped to bring it on. And because if you can come up with that reason, you think, well, it wasn't just random. It wouldn't have been me. I don't dress like that, or I'm not out walking late at night, And so when we can, when we feel like the person did something to provoke, their attack or their situation, um, to cause it to happen, then we can think that, well, you know, I wouldn't do those kinds of behaviors, and so that I don't need to worry about that happening to me. I hear somebody was murdered late at night downtown, and I think, oh, they were probably, not paying attention to the surroundings, or they went to an area that was too dark, and I'm much more careful than that, so I don't need to worry because that wouldn't happen to me. If we think it's just random, like this person was just randomly killed or were assaulted, then we'd all be scared. So, anyways, this is the idea of behind the just world hypothesis. People bring on their own misfortune. And so this applies to things like people living in poverty. I mean, people that, there's a lot of people that will look at those in poverty and say, well, they have a lack of motivation. You may have heard this before, or they have poor work ethics. They have a poor work ethic, and this is why they're in poverty. And so that wouldn't happen to me. Which is, hopefully you realize is really in most cases a load of crap. People living in poverty often are very, very hardworking people and just don't make enough money to make ends meet. But okay, let's go on. When we look at the behavior of others, we tend to do two things. We overestimate the impact of personal or dispositional internal influences, and we underestimate the impact of situational, more external influences. This is so common that it has been being called the fundamental attribution error. It's the fundamental attribution error. So like, because it is like, especially, I mean, when I say it's so common, at least in our society, in societies like ours, it is widespread. It is the way that we operate. So, for example, you're driving on the expressway and somebody cuts you off in traffic. You probably immediately think something negative about that person, like that they're a jerk or something, which is a dispositional, personality-based attribution. But imagine that, you're driving one day and you do the same behavior to somebody else. Well, what are you gonna think? Well, about why you did that behavior. You're gonna be like, oh, I was in a real big hurry for something important. That's why I had to cut him off, or it was, oh, I accidentally cut him off. It wasn't on purpose. Or maybe you were driving in a new part of the expressway, you didn't realize how quickly your exit was coming and you had to cut somebody off to get over. But anyways, you would have a reason. All of those are situational attributions. They have to do with the situation. You would not think, oh, I'm a jerk, the same way you would again about somebody else. The fact that we judge our own behaviors in an opposite way to how we judge others is what's known as the actor observer bias. Let me go on here. We got a little chart here. When you see the word actor, this applies to judging your own behavior. You're the actor, and we tend to attribute outcomes to the situation. This is particularly true of negative occurrences, negative behaviors or outcomes. So you attribute it to the situation. So an example over here is, I had a fender bender because the road was slippery. So that's situational. Or the other driver went through the red light. So it's somebody else's fault. It's not about me. But so the actor is like judging your own behavior. The observer, the word observer, means that you are judging somebody else's behavior. So you're observing behavior. So you attribute the outcome. You tend to attribute the outcome to another person's personality traits. Once again, dispositional, internal reasons. So that person had a fender bender because he's a careless driver or he's an aggressive driver. These are things about the person. We didn't judge our own self that way when we had the fender bender. It was because of the road or because of somebody else. Why do we have these kind of biases? Well, we're much more aware of the situational factors that we're responding to in life, and we're much less aware of the situational factors that others are responding to. So if I do, let's say I'm a student and do really poorly on a test, I may know it's because I had so much going on in my life leading up to that test that I just had no time to study. There was work issues and family issues, and it's a wonder I could even show up to that test. So I know everything leading up to that negative result. I know my situation, and so when I think why did I do poorly, I think, oh, it's because of all those issues I was dealing with. When I look at somebody else is doing poorly on a test, I immediately might think that it's because he's lazy, he did poorly, or because he's not very bright, because I'm unaware of the situational factors that may have affected his test performance, his or her test performance. I mean, that other person may have just had as many, you know, hindrances and going on in their life, but we're unaware of them. So this is why when we judge others, we think about it's something about the person because we don't know everything leading up to that behavior. You see a mother, you know, maybe, kind of harshly grab her young child's arm in the supermarket. Come on, I told you to stay close or something like. And it's like, and you get this little thin slice of behavior. Remember, we use those. You just seen like this woman for 5 seconds, grabbing her child's arm, and you might have the thought right away, oh, she's she's a nasty mother, or something like that. And what you don't know is that what her day has been like, or what how much stress she's under, or and this may be very uncharacteristic. She may be the most loving mother in the world, and you just happen to see this one incident. So like you're completely unaware of everything else going on in life. You just saw like a little 5 second profile, and so that that's all we have to go on. We 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 judge the person. We make once again a dispositional attribution. When we judge our own behaviors, once again, we know everything that leads up to them. Okay, let's go on. Oh, and that will conclude actually learning objective 1.